it's a long way to the set city. I have to travel not only halfway through the desert, but I'm going to have to make the dangerous trip through the unnamed city. Now, really, with Conan Exiles, if you know how to manipulate the NPC pathing, you can pretty much avoid all of them on your way there. The only things I would suggest is to avoid any big cats such as leopards, jaguars, lions, because they can outrun you and jump at you, which will interrupt your running, and then you're screwed. But pretty much every other enemy you can outrun or outpace. I've actually started from level 1 in the northern areas, which is really recommended for level 40s. There is a way to do it, you just gotta know what you're doing. Anyway, as I reach the unnamed city, I skirt the outside of it, avoiding dragons and undead, while avoiding the center where the mass of enemies are. I reach the other side where the gate is. There are several patrols, but again, if you can understand the pathing, you can avoid them fairly easy. Once I reach to the other side, I cross a short little barren wasteland until I reach the cliff side. Climbing up it will lead me to the city. Now, something I used to do also back in the day, this is like when I used to be on PvP servers and such, is instead of crafting my own hardened leather or steel bars, I would actually come to the set city and I would do what I would call chest runs. There are tons of treasure chests on top of buildings here. You can run around and pretty much collect them. They respawn every 20 to 30 minutes depending on server settings, and in one lap I would get an entire stack of 200 steel, 200 leather. But since then they've actually changed the loot that drops from the chest, so now I don't get nearly as much steel or leather. You can still see it sometimes, but not as much. It's primarily decorative items now. I'm not sure as to the full potential that these chests can drop anymore because, as I said, it's changed heavily since the last time I've done this, but I do get a perfected steel greatsword, so that's definitely going to help out, and it's going to be my primary weapon. I actually only use greatswords normally, but if I have to, I will switch up when I can. Then I found this little area. I think this was added during the sorcery update. The sorcery update was around the time that I kind of went spotty with my playtime, so I never got to fully engage in the sorcery or the war update. So anything I find may be new to me still. After a whole lap of gathering what I could, I was starting to get encumbered, so I dropped a bunch of the decorative items that I did pick up in order to unburden myself. I made myself a little camp with a full-on Stygian tent, some lamps, and some other decorative items. Though I'm still desperate to try to find something worthwhile in these chests, so I head back out now that the chests have respawned, and I also check out the city during the nightlife. You could definitely see the lighting changes from the Unreal 5 update. I even go and say hi to Conan in the tavern and watch the dancers for a little while. Though I still have a mission, so I don't stay too long and I head back out to find as many chests as I can. It definitely took me a while to get back into the rhythm, remembering where all of the chests were. I used to have a set path that I could run to get the optimal amount of chests with one circle around the city. So yeah, it took me a while, but as I started to remember where all of them were, I got back into the rhythm and was able to loot several chests per run of the city. Though after about an hour or two of doing that, I headed to the oasis because my character was starting to get hungry and thirsty. So I head on over to where the turtles are, I steal some of their eggs, and I also grab a drink from the nearby oasis. Now I will eventually come back because I do need to grind out some levels, and the turtles are the best things to fight. I am definitely not going to be able to take on the relic hunters, especially in the city where there are so many of them, and the turtles are super easy to kill, not to mention the kudus in the area. Now then, I do find a ton of armor repair kits, so I go ahead and I use it on the armor that I had taken from the enemies, because when you take those, they are already damaged, so now they'll be able to last a little bit longer. Another thing that I do is I head over to the bazaar to see what the merchants have to offer. Some of them have been changed up since the last time I played, so I wanted to see what they had. A lot of them have items that I'm not going to be able to utilize. A lot of them are crafting items, though some of them I believe did sell food. Now I do remember, I think it was either Isle of Sipta or some other custom map that I would play, but I do remember merchants that would sell you slaves or thralls. So I looked around to see if I could find any. I didn't see any in the main area where the merchants are, so I headed on over to the prison where these bouncers were keeping me from entering. I actually don't don't remember if they were there or not originally. No matter, I climb over the wall and head on in. I try to see because this would have been the perfect spot to have an NPC to sell you slaves. I do find a couple of taskmasters, and some of them ended up being named the next time I came around, but I did not find a vendor, so it might be a while before I could get myself some followers. Though after that, it was when I headed back to the Oasis to start grinding up levels by killing pretty much any enemy I could find. I'm not going to be able to fight the world boss turtle just yet, but the kudus will have to do for now. I do earn up some levels and give myself some stat points, so it should help out as I go to take on more camps in the future. This perfected steel greatsword absolutely slashes them in half. Look at that. Boom, right in his head, dead. And I even have some other enemies that I've one-shotted as well. You'll see that pretty soon here, but I take on the turtles. I even try to take on a jaguar, but it didn't quite turn out the way I expected it. Though it didn't help that I went at him already half health, and I kept missing my abilities, so I was losing stamina pretty quick. The jaguars are also pretty fast and can outpace you if you're not careful, not to mention their slash attack, which can bleed and slow you. I do survive, and I headed on into the water to avoid him, which allowed me to reach back to my campsite. Now, I do want to take on another major enemy camp before I end this part of the episode, so I'm going to have to make the trip all the way back to Noob River. So I headed on south. Now, there is a way to get to the Noob River faster from Set City heading straight south, where I don't have to go through the unnamed city. It's a little bit harder to get back, but that's going to be a problem for later. Now, I do head on through, and I have to take on every creature I find because I need them experience points. I place down a bedroll near the river, that way if I do die, I don't have to run all the way back from Set City, and I headed on near the camp that was just outside of the dregs. I don't actually remember what this camp is called. Now, my strategy is to pull them back. That way, if I die, I can easily reclaim my body, and I don't have to deal with the respawns like the last time I tried to take on a Dafari camp. Now, I will admit that this first pull was a little bit sloppy because I ended up pulling the sorcerer and the other warrior in the back. I run out of stamina, and they pretty much shank me. So, yeah, not a good start. But as I go and recover my items, I try again. This time I was a little bit more smart about pulling them just one or two at a time, and I do shred through them with my brand new sword. Like I said, glass cannon. As long as I can get the hits in and don't get hit, I'm completely fine. I use the bow to pull smartly and have the fighter come to me further away from the sorcerer so I don't repeat the last mistake. Of course, he ended up running back, so I said, screw it. I ran on in and I chopped his head off. Then the sorcerer came in with his daggers. Daggers and spears are the bane of my existence. As long as I can take him down quick, I don't have to worry about the fighter who just has a club. Though once I take him down, I go ahead and I loot them. Now the sorcerer drops his robes and his hood. Now definitely is going to be a lot better than what I have, which is nothing on my head slot, and then just the basic trousers for my pants. So it gives me a little bit of armor, even though it's not much, but what it does give me is some drip. Look at that hood. Definitely is going to be a staple for this character because it just looks so badass. I go ahead and I rush through the rest of the camp, taking on pretty much everybody and one-shotting or even two-shotting them because this sword is just that amazing. I take anything I can, which is not much because this is a Dafari camp, so I've pretty much out-leveled them. But anything I could get that is useful is going to be beneficiary. Now, I do eventually want to go to their main city, which is the summoning place. That will have some cages with some thralls that I could tame, and possibly some other goods that these other camps would not have. But that's going to have to be later on. I go ahead and I wrap up killing everybody in the camp, and I find some light boots. The light boots are going to be amazing to have because the light set actually increases your carry capacity. So as you see there, I am 94% encumbrance. The moment I put on those light boots, it drops to 79. Definitely I could feel that bonus. But for now, that's going to be the end of this episode. In the next episode, we're going to continue on my path to escaping the exiled lands without crafting or building a single item. I'm going to even look into getting my very first thrall. So if you want to see that and how I do it, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to see the next episode of this No Craft challenge in Conan Exiles Enhanced.